someone who's aware of the struggle, ready to be brave and go forward, and yet sort of like, am I sure, am I not sure whether I wanted to enter this big, long endeavor of a master's in education. So now we get to hear her prepared remarks, which I'm sure will be very great. Thanks, Judy.
All of our families and friends for being here, because it means so much to us, and we absolutely couldn't have done it without you. In 1979, Ron Edmonds was the first educator to coin the phrase, "all children can learn." He said, "We can, whenever and wherever we choose, successfully teach all children whose schooling is of interest to us. We already know more than we need to know to do that. Whether or not we do it must finally depend on how we feel about the fact that we haven't so far." For nearly all of my 16 years of teaching, I thought that my teaching and my interactions with students was based on that belief that all children can learn. But when it came to mathematics, well, I've struggled most of my life to believe that I can learn it. So if I didn't believe it, that I could learn math, then how did I really believe that my children could, my students? When I was growing up, I was a curious child, and when it came to learning math, I wanted to understand why the concept worked. But because my math teachers only showed me how to do it and not why, I grew up believing that I didn't have the ability to learn math. I thought I don't have the type of brain to learn math. Math was then an area that became inaccessible to me. If you told me a few years ago that I'd be standing here just hours from accepting a master's degree in math education, I would have said that you were crazy. I was a teacher who was afraid of math. When I was a young adult, I hid that fear behind laughter at how bad I was at math. But once I became a teacher, I began to understand that there were different ways of learning. And then I knew I had to face my fear. I remember after being accepted into the Master in Education program thinking, I'm just going to take one course at a time. And I told myself I could stop whenever I want, if it gets too hard. Well, it got hard. And hard enough that I wanted to stop, but I didn't. Why was I so compelled to continue on this journey? What kept me going was this exhilarating feeling that I got every time I learned something new. Mommy. It felt like a door that had been locked for so long just swooshed open. And this feeling happened over and over again throughout the last 2 years. Doors unlocking one after another. The past 2 years in this program, I've learned so much about how our brains work, about the effect of language and culture on learning, about pedagogies that create more equitable learning environments for all children. I've learned the value of a teacher who sees her students as individuals and their learning paths as unique. I've learned the importance of motivation in learning. I've learned that learning isn't about being quick or eloquent. I've learned thoughts can be just as powerful when stated simply. And that taking your time can be a sign of perseverance and wanting to understand thoroughly. I didn't learn these things just through books or research articles I read. These ideas were modeled each day I came to class by my professors. I feel so fortunate to have taken this journey at Evergreen and to have worked with such talented and caring teachers. Something else that is different about Evergreen is that we as students are given the opportunity to learn from each other. I feel as though my cohort, my classmates, have been a huge part of my willingness to keep going when I wanted to give up. They also reflected back what I began to see in myself. Someone who can learn and someone who can teach others. The support of others was never more strongly felt than the second class of discrete mathematics last summer. I say second because I left the first class, I went home and cried most of the afternoon, thinking that I would have to quit the program. I had come far, but now I felt like I had hit the wall. The class was just too far beyond me. And then after talking to my husband, Bob, I realized maybe I wasn't so sure about that. If I could tell my professor what I knew mathematically, where it was at, and what I needed as a learner, maybe I could survive. And so I emailed my professor, Vaughn, to let her know what I was feeling. I wish she was here today. The second day of class, she began by asking all of us how we felt about taking the class. And within minutes, I heard others echo my fears and doubts. I wasn't alone. And in an atmosphere of togetherness, I was able to step into the unknown and appreciate the beauty of this new mathematics. I share these stories of my own insecurity at learning math because I think it is replicated across our country and in our classrooms. This is not just the story of our students, but it is the story of many of our teachers. Teachers who have their own fears and misconceptions about the world of math. As a teacher leader, for we are all teacher leaders now, I hope I can model for my colleagues a willingness to face that fear and an understanding and love of math. Whether we are teachers of students learning English as a second language or students learning the language of mathematics, we will have students who struggle. Let us think back on our own learning experiences as we find ways to reach all of our students. It is a powerful thing, this belief that anyone can learn. Some might say even revolutionary. Thank you.